everybody, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're talking about Endless Ocean Luminous, and is it the weirdest Nintendo Switch game there is? Now, there's a lot of different Nintendo Switch games. We got Nintendo Labo. That's a freaking whole weird little spiel that they had in between there. We got weirdo freaks like Fire Emblem Three Hopes that just makes no sense, but hey, I guess it's good for the Fire Emblem fans. But I think in the grand scope of things, the weirdest Nintendo Switch game is just the one that doesn't feel like a Nintendo game at all, and that is what this is. This game isn't bad, because I will talk about it more in depth, but it is bland, it is kind of boring, and it really feels not creative. It feels very different from any Nintendo game I've ever played, so let's dive into it. Endless Ocean is a series that originally came out on the Wii with the two games that came out over there, and they were sort of cult classics. So when Nintendo brought this game back, when they showed it actually at a partner showcase earlier this year, a lot of people were confused, but it is published by Nintendo, it's just made by a different company. So actually it makes a little bit more sense as to why it's so weird and why it feels so non-Nintendo. Now, the framing of this whole thing is like the weirdest Nintendo Switch game, which I really personally believe it is. You can argue Cadence of Hyrule is a weirdo one because Nintendo gave their IP to an indie studio, but I think at the end of the day, the fact that this game is just an ocean marine life simulator where you swim around all like with decent swimming mechanics, I guess they're not that bad, but you swim around with these swimming mechanics and you scan fish, and that's it. And you know what's even weirder is that they implemented 30-person online. Like, you can jump in a multiplayer session with 30 different people. This is like a streamer's wet dream of a game, you know? It would be so perfect, but the fact that it is surrounded by a game that is genuinely just not very interesting, unless you're hyper into, you know, like the marine life and, you know, aquaticness and all that kind of jazz, it's just a little bit unfortunate. I think Nintendo had a lot of potential with this game, and if they took it to something like Subnautica, where these, you know, you can have a base, you can build on that base, there's a lot of different things to do, there's combat, there's exploration, and it's like sort of a pretty game. The other thing is it's just not very visually appealing, and I understand the Switch is 10 years old at this point, but it feels like a weird game to put on at the end of the life cycle. I'm gonna sneeze. Maybe I'm not gonna sneeze, my eyes are just gonna water. Whew. Now that we're in the later years of the Nintendo Switch, and now we have the Switch 2 being confirmed, it makes sense to want to move on to something that is a little bit, you know, more niche and stuff like that, because they have that pre-established audience already. We've already seen things like, you know, like another Code Recollection come out, we've got Famicom Detective Club, we've got some randos, but the thing about those is that I guess they were, you know, felt very Nintendo at their core. Because every Nintendo game, regardless of quality or anything like that, they try to do something sort of interesting and sort of new, or like it has that feeling of being very Nintendo. This kind of feels like a random PC Steam game to me, where you put into ChatGPT, hey, give me a cozy underwater game, and that's what it spits out, because there is no sense of danger here. There's nothing. And it doesn't even have the art style to be in the cozy game genre, because cozy games are supposed to be a little bit cute, you know, and it's not. To be honest, I guess I can't be virtue signaling, you know, about what a cozy game can and can't be, because I don't even know what a cozy game is, and I'm not a cozy gamer myself. I'd like to be. There's a lot of girls in that space who are very nice, and their audiences seem so much kinder. Maybe we'll get into there at some point. Maybe I'll talk about Little Kitty Big City. But anyways, I think the thing with Endless Ocean Luminous is just the fact that all you are doing is you can swim, and you can swim up, you can swim down, you have a little dolphin kick that you can use, and the swimming mechanics, they're fine, and then you pull out your thing, and you scan fish, and you get different achievements throughout the thing of scanning fish. If you scan enough fish, then you get some coins, and then you know what you use those coins for? Emotes and like wardrobe changes, which is cool if there was something to bring people into this game, but there's nothing really here to latch onto, I think. And that's the biggest issue, is what are new players coming into this series going to latch onto if they are not huge marine bio fans? I was on a podcast with RGT85, obviously the Spawncast, and he's talking about how he's playing this game, which is very shocking to me because he's usually, you know, very old man grumpy about those kind of things. But he was talking about how it basically feels like an education tool for students and like for classrooms and stuff. And I think that makes so much sense, because at a certain point, it just isn't a game. It's a simulator that simulates underwater aquatic life that lets people learn about it pretty well, because there are some cool facts in here, and you can tell that there was some effort put in that way. And so I think really the best case use for this is going to be in schools or in like marine bio classes for little kids, because it's a cool way to learn about them. It does teach you things. But that's it, you know? Game-wise, it's not really a game. There's no combat. There's no really upgrading other than just buying, you know, like different color palettes for your diver, like for like their wetsuit and stuff like that. Like you can change their wetsuit from being like blue to pink, but that's about it. And there's like not much substance here to grasp onto. And that's really what I think makes this game so weird, is every Nintendo game, you know, even you can say like the most corporate feeling Nintendo games, like a game like Kirby Star Allies, that had so much random post-game content that it didn't need, that gave it hours of replayability and fun for people who were super into it. If you get super into this game, the only thing you can do is like collect them all, like a Pokemon game, I guess, and it's not even like you can like do much with the animals you don't do anything with them. You can't catch them, you can't like, I was talking on Game and Talk, our other podcast, check out Game and Talk, it's a really great podcast. Celia was asking, can you know, like you catch the fish and then what do you do with them? And how cool would it have been if you could like make an aquarium of fish almost, and Animal Crossing-ify it as like a collectible thing. But you can't even do that, you just scan them. You just have a bunch of fish that are scanned, and you have no home base where you can see all the fish you've seen. It's just menus after menus after menus. And the one really cool thing here is the 30-player online, but there's nobody who's gonna play 30-player online in a game like this. 30-player online would be so amazing in literally every other Nintendo game. If Nintendo wants to put 30-player online in Tears of the Kingdom, that would be awesome. That would bring a whole new, you know, fresh perspective to what Tears of the Kingdom has to offer and what it could be, and that would be genuinely so much fun. And so it's really weird to me that for this one very cool idea of 30-player massively online multiplayer game, where it's like, you know, imagine like I stream one of those, you guys can all just join my world, like how cool is that? But the fact that the game itself is just not very cool and not very fun and has very little substance is probably the biggest issue. Overall, though it says it's published by Nintendo, it just feels really weird. Because there's nothing here that makes it more than being a very basic exploration sea game. And even not even that much exploration, because there's no crafting mechanics, there's no mechanics in this game. The one mechanic is that you scan sea life, and that's it. And I sound like I'm really shitting on this game, and I actually don't hate it. I got sucked into this game playing it straight for like 3 hours, because I was having a little bit of fun with it, and it is sort of relaxing, but it's hard to recommend to people because what is the substance? Nothing. Unless you like, you know, you're huge into marine life and you've been looking for this game all the time, you're a marine biologist, and in your off time, you're like, damn, it'd be really cool to be able to see those animals that I'm studying and talking about in the day up close in a video game. I guess here you go. But it's such a specific use case that to me this feels like the weirdest Nintendo Switch game we have ever gotten. Labo was weird. Labo was so weird, but it was so Nintendo. Game Builder Garage, super weird, but so Nintendo. They gave the programming nodes a personality. That's the most Nintendo shit you can do. Jump Rope Challenge, super weird, just a game that the Nintendo developers put out during COVID because people weren't being active, but it's a bunny who jumps rope, who you motion, oh shit, yikes, I got really passionate about, who you motion control jump rope with. That is so Nintendo. There's so many things that Nintendo does that are so fucking weird. At a certain point, it's very endearing and very cool, and then this baddie comes along and it just feels like shovelware Steam. And I guess shovelware is a little harsh for it because it's not bad, and it has some cool, you know, if you like collecting things, here you go. But it's so bland, and Nintendo is not known for being bland. You know, it's very weird to me. when I tried to buy this game from GameStop, it was a crazy situation. I walk into GameStop with my friend because also they printed like 4 copies of this. So the GameStop in my town, they don't have any of it. They're like, hey, sorry, we didn't get any copies. And I was like, awesome. So I go to GameStop in a couple towns over, and we walk in there, and he's like, hey, can I help you guys with anything? And I was like, hey, can I get Endless Ocean? And he was like, oh, he was like, well, you know, that game's like really not that great. And basically tries to dissuade me for so long about it. And the only copy he has, I think it had already been opened, but it hadn't been sold yet. And so he gives me this, and he's like, okay, so we don't have the shrink wrap for it, but in case you want to return it, I'm going to put it in a sleeve, and as long as you return it back in the sleeve within 14 days, you can fully return it for a full refund. It was just so bizarre. Oh, and then he also felt bad, so he threw in a Nintendo Switch Online free code. Actually, I don't know if this just comes with the game, but that's in there. I don't know if anyone wants that. You get 7 days free. It's not very much, but you can have it if you want it. I'll put it up on screen. But this guy was so trying to get me to not buy this game because he knows it's not a great game. And at the same time, I was like, dude, listen, you don't understand. I just need the game. I know it's not great, but I just need it, and I'm gonna play it anyways. It's totally fine. And it was just such a weird exchange, and he was stressed out about it for sure. Anyways, I don't think it's a bad game. I think it's just a game that's for a very specific niche audience, and hey, maybe that audience is biology teachers who give it to their students to play, to learn about fish. And I think that would be a great way to learn about fish. I'd love that as a kid. But, as a game that I paid fucking $50 for, no. No. I don't recommend it. It's very boring, very non-Nintendo, very weird. So, I know this framing was about the weirdest Nintendo Switch game, but I think it fully is. I found it. Cadence of Hyrule, not that weird. It's weird that Nintendo gave their IP to an indie game and they made it a rhythm game, but at the end of the day, it's still Nintendo-ified. This is corporate, bland, lame. I can't get behind it. But if you like the video, subscribe, like it as well. Check out this video. It's a banger. It's a vibe. It's a good time. I have merch now. Check out the merch. It says Whoa, kind of fun because my name here is Josie Whoa. And it's just a cool time. Anyways, thanks for hanging out. Thanks for watching the video. Appreciate you. I'll see you in that video. Goodbye.